I feel like Heath Ledger's Joker is pulling the strings on college football right now because it's all chaos. Tennessee could get what?
You are Locked On College Football with Spencer McLaughlin, your daily podcast on all things college football. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Locked On College Football. I'm your host, Spencer McLaughlin, and thank you so much for making this your first listen or your first view every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day and your daily source to stay up to date with the biggest stories in this, the greatest but craziest, wildest sport on planet Earth. UCLA, in the eyes of the odds makers, could beat Utah. I disagree. Canceling USC-Notre Dame, I would be very upset. All right, that's all coming up on today's show. So, the latest report from Ross Dellinger over at Yahoo Sports, amidst others, I just think Ross does a great job. Go read his piece. There's a lot of information in there. I'm going to give you the highlights of it. There is a proposal amongst the power conferences. This has not been officially proposed to get voted on necessarily. It is, however, legitimately being discussed that would essentially create a new NCAA. Now, the old NCAA, which, still exists, but basically just shows up and hands out punishments that nobody cares about. That's all they do in college football nowadays. This new enforcement mechanism would regulate things like NIL compensation, or maybe the transfer portal, or rule violations, and it would handle all of that. And it would remove, this is one of the most chaotic parts, it would remove the ability for any school that opts into it to sue it. Right now, you can sue. Tennessee has sued or been in court against the NCAA with regards to NIL. The NCAA tried to say, you violated these rules. And the NCAA said, wait. No, you're saying that we're applying rules that weren't applicable when the violations allegedly occurred. And they went to court, and Tennessee won. Every time the NCAA gets taken to court, they lose. They have lost over, and they lost the NIL situation. They lost the case with Tennessee. There was a situation with USC. Like, the NCAA just appears to have a consistently losing legal hand. And so that has reduced their enforcement ability, and it has indeed contributed. I know a lot of people don't like the NCAA. I'm no big fan in a lot of different instances. It has helped contribute to the lack of structure surrounding NIL, the portal, and realignment, which has all just been thrown, and we're drinking it like a fire hose over the last couple of years as college football fans. And so what you now have is an idea to create a new NCAA that isn't the NCAA that you can't go and sue. Well, states have passed laws all across the country, most notably, I believe, in Tennessee, that say, any NCAA rule that, caps NIL earning potential, you go ahead and ignore that. Or if you are in a situation where you want to go take legal action here, you can do that. Very pro school. This proposed situation, which is stemming from the power conferences, but apparently not, widely approved by all the conferences, is trying to rein in everyone and everything. And the punishment, if you don't opt into it, is you get kicked out of your conference. Potential. Now, that hasn't been approved. This is coming, and this is why chaos is the theme of today's show. This is coming before the House settlement has actually been finalized. So we don't know what the fallout from that is entirely. We have an idea. Schools will be able to pay players, and you can opt in, and you can have a $20 million salary cap, and that'll be great. But that could face legal challenges too. This whole situation, chaos is the word of the day. It is absolutely the word of the day because there are a number of different ideas, and inherently, I don't think it is wrong or bad that there are legitimate attempts, whether it's coming from conferences or state legislatures, federal legislatures, whoever. It's not bad that they are attempting to create a centralized governing structure. Quite frankly, as much as we all dislike a lot of the things the NCAA does, college football arguably would be in a better place if they had not ceded power and backed out of the hands-on governance and structure of this sport many, many years ago. The power players are conferences and TV executives. Those are the people that most influence what happens in college football in more than one area. That's unfortunate because you don't have a unified vision amongst the conferences. They don't even all play the same number of conference games. I mean, in the NFL, everyone plays each team in your division twice. And every division's got the same number of teams. You don't have that in college football. You don't have uniformity. You have patchwork. And it works. But is it a long-term solution? I don't think so, and nobody else really seems to either. So that component of it, if that gets introduced and the punishment is if you don't want to be a part of this, if you don't want to be told what to do and have restrictions put on this, that, and the other thing within your athletic department, then the schools that have opted into it, yeah, we're just not going to play you and you're going to get kicked out of the conference. That's a crazy punishment. I hope it doesn't get there. I really don't. There is a part of me that would like for this to all just blow up so that we can reset and start over. There's another part of me that gets worried about lengthening or expanding the chaos to the point where the sport could legitimately suffer some big fractures here. I don't want to see any of that. I really, really don't. So that's the first thing. Here's the second thing. There is an idea of enlisting one of the big four accounting firms to go and assess individual NIL deals and determine whether they are fair market value. And as is the case with most of the things being discussed in this realm, right as that gets proposed, the next sentence usually in Dellinger's article or any other reporter that's covering this stuff is usually along the lines of, that's going to face legal challenges. Because what we have seen time and again is when you try to restrict the earning potential of people who legally are adults, I know they're student athletes, but legally they are adults. They're old enough to go and they're old enough to be in the military. So yeah, legally they're adults, and capping their earning potential, boy, doesn't go over very well. And, you know, whether or not the NCAA can get an antitrust exemption could come down to what happens at the federal level legislatively. This whole thing is so insanely messy. But here's the thing. Dellinger's article said that the proposed structure for assessing NIL deals would have valued 80% or more as overpaid, and therefore they wouldn't have gone through. That this firm could say, yeah, that player is not worth that much money. Get ready for a mad scrum in the next couple of months of people going to get the biggest NIL deals possible wherever they can find them. This will be in college football, basketball, soccer, volleyball, wherever else you can find. I don't care. When if people catch wind of that notion that there's going to be a huge cap on what individual players can earn, and it has to be assessed as fair market value by an accounting firm, you're going to see NIL payments on a per player basis drop considerably from what they are now. That would be a pretty monumental change. So change is on the way, whether you like it or not. I have no idea how you could possibly predict which way this is going to go. That's the latest. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Hit me up on Twitter, all that good stuff. Let's talk about actual football. An actual football game. And I don't know what Vegas is thinking here. First, this episode brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game. Before tip-off and live, with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you want to bet college football, you can do that, which, do you know how close the season is? We're like 3 months away from having real, honest-to-goodness college football games. That's some pretty exciting stuff. And there's also this great situation where if you're new to FanDuel, it's a great time to sign up. It's the perfect time, some would say, because if you head to FanDuel.com and you place your first $5 bet and it wins, you get $200 in bonus bets. And for college football, you can bet win totals, you can bet conference title odds, national championship odds, Heisman odds. It's all over there. Check it out. Again, first $5 bet hits, you get $200 in bonus bets. Pretty sweet deal. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Look, they say Vegas always knows, but does Vegas always know? JT Wistrcill of Locked On Utes here with me to discuss this mind-boggling point spread, which is Utah at UCLA, week 1, August 30th. Suddenly one of the most interesting games in all of college football after the Nico situation unfolded in Knoxville, now to Los Angeles, of course. But this line, JT, according to our friends at FanDuel, is Utah minus 3.5. Astonishingly. Last week, it was minus 1.5. Can you explain that to me, please? Because I look at that and go, should I bet a month's salary on Utah? Because what are we talking about here? Nico, UCLA, like no way, right?
Yes, way for Utah. I don't see how this is going to be UCLA like steamrolling Utah. I think it's too many new pieces having to come in. Does Utah have some transfers too? Yes, but what does Utah have? They have all 5 starters on the offensive line returning up front. From a UCLA defense that is lost their 2 leading tacklers and has a lot more that they also have to replace too. So I really like what I think Utah will be able to do offensively, even though, hey, Devin Dampier, Utah's quarterback, threw 12 interceptions last year. So I'm not saying he's going to come in there and light the world on fire, but I am concerned about this. If I was a Bruin fan, I'd be concerned about UCLA's offense against Utah's defense. We know Nico's nice. That offensive line last year was not, and they brought in a lot of new transfer portal pieces. And what does it take time, especially for the offensive line, to do? Get on the same page communication-wise. Who is one of the worst teams you can play when you're trying to get on the same page? Utah and Morgan Scalley. Because what is Morgan Scalley going to do? He's going to blitz, and he's going to blitz, and he's going to blitz, and he's going to blitz. And it gets crazy. And you'll be like, wait, this guy's coming. Like, who's sliding over? Who's going where? And Nico is a guy. I think he's going to get pressured fast. This is not a wide receiver core, and they actually have a former Utah receiver on it in Mikey Matthews. It is not a scary wide receiver core, and I think it is a bad matchup for the Bruins because I don't think they're going to win the trenches, even on the other side of the ball. I mentioned their offensive line, let's say their run game, right? Utah, even though they don't have as great defensive tackles as they've had in the past, they are more than capable of taking on double teams, and Lander Barton's still back there. Levi Demooney's coming back from injury. He's a guy who's played a lot of college football, and Utah's got some nice DBs. I think this is a Utah team that is well equipped to beat this Bruins team. And I think this is the best time to get UCLA too, at the start of the year when all these pieces are starting and trying to come together. So I do like Utah in this game. And the more I dive into it, the more I feel really good from a matchup standpoint about Utah going in and making a week 1 statement against the Bruins.
I wonder if this isn't mostly driven by the odds makers knowing how big a story Nico was and the desire for people to bet on. Now, they bumped up UCLA's win total by 1 game from 4.5 to 5.5. I think I like the under there. They bumped down Tennessee's win total from 9.5 to 8.5. So they clearly view Nico as being worth 1 win at quarterback compared to what the alternative would have been. I don't think that's ridiculous. I don't think that's a crazy take. Nico can do a lot of really good things. Let's also remember, JT, it was the biggest games against the best teams and defenses last year where Nico struggled the most. Mm-hmm. Those were the moments where you watched and went, "Oh boy, he's got a long way to go." The potential is immense, and we've seen glimpses and flashes of it. Yes, that is true. But here's the other reason why I think this is this should be Utah minus 6 or 7. Because it's in Los Angeles. Week 1, like this should be Utes by around a touchdown. Maybe a little bit less because there is something to a team, isn't going to feel defeated in week 1. Everybody's optimistic, excited, trying to set the the odds that UCLA comes out flat in this game, I don't think are very high. Same though goes for Utah. Whereas when a team gets down to, where UCLA could be this year, they're sitting 3-7. Yeah, you can come out flat. late in the year because you're just trying to play and get on to the offseason and make as many improvements as you can. But the other factor is that Nico went to UCLA after spring ball, right? He didn't have spring camp. He's going to have fall camp, sure. But his time spent, you have 2 new transfer quarterbacks here, 100%. But the time spent for Dampier is many countless hours more than what Nico's got with his teammates. I would legitimately feel better. I do like the Mikey Matthews pickup. I've always liked Mikey Matthews.
I like him.
I think he'd be a really, really solid number 3 slot receiver. Like, good football player. Not a game changer, but a good football player. I would feel better about this game for UCLA being at home if they still had J. Michael Sturdivant. If they had a true number 1 well-rounded receiver that can go and just cook somebody or make a big play on third down. I don't know that the Bruins have that with him gone. He's at Florida now. Great pickup for the Gators. But that quarterback battle, yeah, there are questions both ways. I give that advantage to Utah because you just had an opportunity to teach him the offense, get him in tune with his receivers. Like that makes a difference. Guys do it for a reason.
And Spencer, who was Devin Dampier's offensive coordinator last year?
His current offensive coordinator.
His current offensive coordinator, Jason Beck, the guy who developed him, like helped him grow into the player he is. Like he knows his skill set so well. It's a massive thing. Also, look, I do think that the Bruins, I think that this is a team that could be better this year, but they started incredibly flat last year. They came out of the gates not well and nearly lost to Hawaii. Spencer, you were there for Utah's first game last year, and they came out looking decent. And in the first half, they didn't even need to end up playing their guys. What ended up happening there? And with Southern Utah, so different levels of Hawaii, Southern Utah. But either way, I'm not trying to take it personal, not trying to go at your T-Bird.
Good. You better not be taking shots at my birds.
I'm just making the point you were there.
I was.
But this is a Utah team where, like we said, we just know what we're getting with a Kyle Whittingham-led team. And it's just last year, when you look at what happened with Utah, they had bad quarterback play. Watch Devin Dampier and tell me whatever you think of it. Even if you think like he's not going to be a good P4, like, or not going to be a great P4 player. It's hard for me not to believe he's not going to be solid when you look at the other guys who make the jump from group of 5 to P4. He has all the makings to me of a guy who's ready for that next step, that next level. Because even if his arm struggles at times, watch Auburn, watch Arizona, these teams last year, try and tackle him. They can't. He only got sacked 4 times last year. He is incredibly elusive. He led the nation in yards per carry as a quarterback, was the only quarterback in the country to throw for over 2,500 yards and rush for over 1,000 yards. That's who Utah has. So even when plays break down, he's going to be able to make something happen. Find me a mock draft that doesn't have Spencer Fano and Caleb Lomu. Utah's 2 tackles going in the first round. We already mentioned that those guys, they returned the 5 starters up front, but how about 2 of them? They're going to be first round NFL draft picks next year too. Washington State, you get Wayshawn Parker in there, 600-yard back too. So this is a Utah team. They return a lot of pieces on defense still. They have their identity. They added and tweaked some things transfer portal wise, and they needed to with how bad they were on offense. But the connection that Devin Dampier and Jason Beck has going way back, just the fact that this Utah team, Morgan Scalley does a great job of making quarterbacks uncomfortable. And this is the time to play UCLA to me, is early in the season, just like last year, because they closed the year well last year. The Bruins did.
They finished really well. They started, I think it was 1-5, and then ended up at 5-7, and I was better than I thought they would do.
And I think it'll be it's a very similar thing this year. I do not think it will start great, especially against a team like Utah. That's just a bad matchup for them. Utah's gone out there and won before. Bruins got them last time they were there too, but Utah has been able to lay it on the Bruins.
That was
new coaching staff.
That was like 4th-year Chip Kelly with Dorian Thompson-Robinson and Zach Charbonnet. Like this is not that. I mean, it
could be a similar results.
Tino Sinceri, I think, will be a better offensive coordinator than Eric Bieniemy.
Agreed. Well, yes. I mean, they're paying Eric Bieniemy $1 million not to be there, so obviously,
yeah. Nico is capable. I think Morgan Scalley's going to put his mind in a blender there. I've seen him do it with so many different guys, and Nico, with a great supporting cast last year at Tennessee, struggled in the big games. Can't argue the numbers out there, Bruins fans. You can't. And so by the end of the year, it could be good. He could be doing well, but week 1, game 1, I think UCLA should be grateful this game isn't at Rice Eccles, or it would be. Oh boy, that'd be
next year. Will be
Yeah.
So that's where
they could be better than that. Could be a better better situation to be in for UCLA, even though it's on the road. But
got to upgrade the supporting cast if you're UCLA for me. I think it's a bad matchup for them.
Yeah, the trenches battle on both sides, I think it favors Utah so heavily here. Quarterback advantage, coaching advantage, team advantage, like you name it. I'm all in.
Utah fans will travel well to this game, by the way. Like they will go well.
Bet
to this
Utah
game.
minus 3.5 while you can, if you are so inclined. I think that's Utes by double digits. I really do. And then UCLA plays UNLV. So really interesting start to the year for the Bruins with Nico. JT Wistrcill, Locked On Utes, great as always. Speaking of Los Angeles, that other team in the city. That's how people usually refer to UCLA. But in this context, it's USC, who are about to do something I absolutely hate. I try to be a pro fan, sort of college football guy. That's the way I approach it, because I am a college football fan. If you're an everydayer out there, thank you for doing that, by the way. But even if you're tuning in for the first time, the 8th time, the 80th time, you probably have picked up on the fact that I really like college football. The show is literally called Locked On College Football. It's all I talk about on here. There are no other stories that seep into this show that are not college football related. And so I love the sport. I really do. I always have. I always will, by the way. I always will. Amidst all the craziness and the wildness of all this stuff, I'll always love it because eventually games will return. We're about 3 months away from having real, meaningful football. And it's going to be great. It'll be here before you know it, I promise, and we'll get there together. But when I see something like canceling Notre Dame USC, it makes my blood boil. It really, really does. Because what has happened over the last, let's call it 5 years, it's really 4, it would be about 4 years ago, 3 years ago, July, when USC and UCLA announced they were going to leave the Pac-12 and started a lot of this stuff. Now, NIL and the portal would have shown up anyway, but NIL, the portal, realignment, I can readily make the case that all of those things, while being pro-player in a lot of sense, are anti-fan, which is usually how those things go. What's good for players holistically in a sport or a league oftentimes isn't great for fans. You know who's really, really pro-player? The NBA. You know who's lost a lot of its television viewership over the last decade or so? Where other sports have gone up, they've not done quite as well. The NBA. It's not a coincidence, in my view. And so college football, because it is football and there's a scarcity component that the NBA or any basketball league can't actually match, all of these things that are anti-fan, I don't think are going to drive down television viewership, at least not holistically across the board. But we have changed so many things. Think about what it was like to be a college football fan in 2019. Here in 2025, it is radically different. You look at players differently. You look at teams differently. You look at coaches differently. You look at conferences differently. It all feels different, particularly in the offseason. It's definitely 100% emphasized when you are in the middle of May, as we are right now. Once October rolls around and we've been in the season for over a month and we're talking about games, you'll forget about all of this stuff. Mostly. Maybe not entirely, but mostly. I will too. Doesn't mean it is irrelevant. It's certainly not. But being a fan of college football is just a lot different because things have changed a lot. Sometimes that's good. Sometimes it's not. USC and Notre Dame is more than a college football game. It's an institution in the sport. It is a marker. It is a staple. It is something that is always played. I do not care who is suggesting or why they are suggesting this game not be played. I would like to have a stern conversation with them that sounds something like I want it to be one-sided. So really, I just want the people that are making these decisions to listen to this show. Anyway, here's what I'd want them to hear. Are you unaware of how historic that matchup is? Do you have any idea why rivalries separate college football from the NFL? Among the litany of things that make this sport in my view, and not the NFL, the greatest sport on planet Earth. Rivalries are a top 3 reason, and they might not be number 2 or 3. It could be 2. I don't know. It's 3. It can't be lower than 3. The rivalries in the NFL, the Steelers and the Ravens. There have been some great games over the years. There's passion between the fan bases, no doubt about it. They play twice a year in football, not once a year. Rivalry games in college football, and yeah, twice is still not a lot. They want to win rivalry games. I get it. I'm not saying NFL rivalries don't exist. Don't for a single solitary second try and convince me or anybody else that's a true college football fan they feel the same. Because I, every year, as someone who grew up on the West Coast with the old Pac-12, RIP, I never want to miss an Iron Bowl. I never want to miss Michigan, Ohio State. I'm never missing Red River. That is a circle the calendar sort of day. And USC Notre Dame, it's not in that tier, but it's not that far behind. The history of those two programs is incredible. It is immense, and it is a staple of college football and has been for such a long time. Why do we need to get rid of it? That's a game that, frankly, Notre Dame should want to keep more than USC. USC is in the Big Ten now. They don't have strength of schedule concerns. Notre Dame can. Notre Dame usually plays a really, really good schedule, right? This year, they've got USC, of course, who should be a good but not great team. But they've got Miami. They usually play, they play at least 5 ACC games every year. They're going to start playing Clemson every year, starting in 2027, which I think is great. I love those sorts of games. But when you have the ability to give college football fans not just a historic matchup, but one between two teams that can make the college football playoff or have big enough brands to draw national interest, who are you helping by removing that game? What's it getting replaced with? These are games that get sharpied into USC and Notre Dame schedules every single year. What's the alternative going to be? Fans across the country aren't going to care about Notre Dame playing. I mean, who would they even play? Even if you made it a Power 4 game, even if you swapped it out with another Big Ten team. Let's say you had Notre Dame play Minnesota. It's a solid program. We're going to talk about him this week on the Big Ten squad. PJ Fleck, good coach. Minnesota, solid program. Nothing special, but good. Do you care about that game? No, because there's no history. You cannot replicate history. You can't carry it over. You can't create it. You can't fake it. 2 notable examples. When the Pac-12, RIP, originally formed with Utah and Colorado, they had those 2 schools play during rivalry week. I'm pretty sure every year, they came in together. They're the mountain schools. There was no rivalry there, no juice. Why? You can't fake it. Live Golf doesn't have big television numbers. You know why? They're playing at places with no history. They have some big names over there that some people like watching, like Bryson DeChambeau, but they're playing in Live Golf, insert course no one's ever heard of. For all you golf fans out there, do you like watching Bay Hill? Yeah. You know why? Because it's the Arnold Palmer Invitational. Because there is history. Because there is tradition. You cannot rapidly, if at all, bake those things in because it takes decades. It takes decades for that to happen. One thing I think about the New World Pac-12, who are the rivals going to be? Who are the games, or what are the games that are going to draw in an audience beyond the Pac-12 footprint? We don't know yet. We don't know. Maybe there won't be any. I hope there will be some. But Notre Dame USC automatically draws a national audience. Notre Dame was significantly better, or had a significantly better season than USC last year. And on the road, guess what? Still a really good football game. Why? It's one of those games. How many times has Auburn played close with Alabama? When Auburn's having an average season, Alabama's going to have a great one. Oh, that only happened as recently as 2 years ago, when Jalen Milroe on the 4th and 31 or whatever it was to Isaiah Bond. Auburn wasn't even good. Alabama was a couple plays away from the national championship game, and still Auburn could have won. Why? Rivalry games. History, tradition, it has a different feel. It's not just a football game, it is an event. Steelers-Ravens or Seahawks-49ers is an elevated NFL game. It still feels a lot like the rest of them. The Iron Bowl, Red River, the Battle for Los Angeles, Notre Dame, USC, the list goes on and on. Georgia, Florida, like you cannot replicate that stuff quickly. You can't do it. And so I don't care what the reason. Play this series. So much has already been taken. Talk about kicking college football fans while they're down. So much has already been taken. An entire conference, regional stability, ease of travel to road games has been taken away from so many. Do you have to pile on and take Notre Dame, USC as well? Gosh, I hope not. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll see you next time. And until then, hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.